And we're back with the Greatest Attorney Chronicles Resolve. I totally didn't forget the tagline of that. Let us pick up where we left off. Right when things were starting to, yeah, start of our second testimony. Hello, friends. Pulling a blade from a wound without thinking could cause heavy bleeding. That's basic knowledge that any medical research assistant with an ounce of sense ought to know. In other words, there's no good reason why the defendant would have tried to pull the knife from the victim. Let's not forget that the young student did have a motive for killing the victim. The man the victim murdered 9 months ago, Dr. Wilson, was the defendant's highly respected mentor. Is what you just said true, Inspector? Could pulling a knife from a wound really cause the wound to bleed heavily? Yes. Think of the weapon itself as a stopper in the wound that prevents excessive blood loss. Until a doctor is ready to provide proper treatment, that stopper shouldn't be removed. I see.
This is why you yokels should stay on the farm. Even a quack from some obscure mountain village would have such basic knowledge. Anyone who's ever given someone a little poke with a knife and pulled it out again knows it. Have you, Ouchie?
Well, I've never stabbed anyone, you see, or pulled a blade out of a wound, so... Of course you haven't. I didn't bring you up to behave like a bandit. Hi, Dad.
Father, is it true, what they're telling me?
Yes, it's basic remedial knowledge for medics. Ray would have been well aware of it. If she were to claim ignorance of such fundamentals, that would prove fatal in many ways.
But then, why would Ray have done it? Could she have pulled out that knife in full knowledge that it would be fatal for Miss Brent?
I don't know.
Ray never once mentioned anything about the knife to me. It seems almost impossible to believe, but... could my friend actually have...
Susato.
Yes?
Pull yourself together. We mustn't lose sight of why we're here. And so it's time for your cross-examination.
Oh, yes, Your Excellency.
However, I must warn you that if your cross-examination fails to identify any issues with the established facts, I'll be moving to my adjudication immediately afterwards. Deep breath.
I understand.
Believing in your clients and fighting for their cause until the bitter end. I knew it would be hard, but I had no idea it would be this hard. Being in this position is very hard to understand the full weight of until you're in this position.
Hold it! You say doing it without thinking could be a problem. Does that mean that if you used due care and attention, it would be alright?
I wouldn't have thought this needed spelling out, really, but... the blade is like a stopper in the wound. Remove it, and a serious hemorrhage will occur. In other words, a medic would need to be present before any attempt was made to withdraw the blade. Doing it without thinking would be madness. You just can't do it.
Oh, well, thank you for such a thorough explanation. You see, Counsel, when you act without thinking, the result is a bloodbath.
Back to the witness testimony, please. Yes. That was a good one.
Hold it! In that case, there's an obvious explanation here.
Which is...
clearly, the defendant, Raymond Bonnie-san, does not possess an ounce of sense.
What do you think about that, Professor Mikotoba? I'm not sure that you should be labeling your best friend as lacking in common sense.
Well, I thought it would be better than labeling her as a murderer. I don't know young people today. If that's friendship, I don't understand it.
Careful, counsel. A lack of common sense could be a very dangerous thing. Oh dear. That recorded me rather badly. This is not going well, Ryotaro. That's life, I'm afraid. A lesson everyone must learn. Thanks, Dad. Hopefully you can see now this is really basic medical knowledge. Being involved in medical research, Membani-san would certainly have been aware of it. Other words? Yep.
Hold it!
We don't really have a means of proving a good reason.
The defendant had suddenly encountered somebody she knew lying on the ground, bleeding to death. The sight could have shocked her delicate sensibilities, causing her to remove the blade inadvertently.
I really don't think inadvertent actions can explain this. The woman is a medical research assistant. I cannot imagine she would behave so irrationally.
I mean, medical research and medic. It's possible that they're far enough from each other in scope that she might react that way.
To seeing someone she knows in real life bleeding out from a knife wound. Just saying.
Possible. Oh, but irrational behavior is a woman's prerogative, isn't it?
Ryotaro. Oh dear, you have a lot to learn about women. Only a small-minded man could have such bigoted views.
BROSONAGA says respect women. Oh dear. Perhaps I'm letting my male persona take hold a little too much?
Well, have I managed to convey the basics now? That should cover the medical side of the argument. This is not going well for us.
Hold it!
Do we disprove the motive then?
Whatever the motive, it just isn't in Membani-san's nature to do something so awful.
But she had both motive and opportunity. That's very hard to argue against.
But you don't know the defendant.
Objection!
And you, counsel, do not appear to know the law.
Yes, evidence is the only way to convince the court of your argument, not feelings.
With this fledgling to defend her, I would almost say I pity the accused. So do I.
Inspector, you will reiterate your point about the defendant's motive, please. Ah, yes, Miss Brett was in many ways the sworn enemy of Membani-san.
Hold it!
Well, yes, that's true. Dr. Wilson recognized Membani-san's talent and offered her the position of assistant despite her being a woman. She was extremely grateful to him.
Yes, the Englishman appears to have been a very broad-minded individual. Dr. Wilson had no time for outdated traditions. He met with opposition, of course, but he believed firmly in Membani-san's abilities. Clearly the defendant was in the man's debt, which only serves to prove my point.
This is hopeless. I can't find a single crack in this testimony anywhere. If Frey knew that withdrawing the knife from the wound would threaten Miss Brett's life further. I just can't think of any way to explain why she did it.
Susato, it's at times like these when it's especially important to remember the fundamentals.
The fundamentals?
Evidence is what counts in the courtroom, isn't it?
Of course, but I've been through the court record dozens of times already.
I think perhaps you're forgetting something, though. You needn't take the evidence at face value. You can and must examine it in greater detail, too. I realize this is your first time playing the role of lawyer in the courtroom. So if you need reminding of the rudiments, you need only ask. I'll do my very best to help.
Examine the evidence in the court record. It's an idea, certainly. What should I do?
I know what to do, thanks, Dad.
Now think of it. Kazuma-sama and Naruhodo-san were always turning evidence over and over in their hands. Yes, need to examine things in greater detail with spacebar.
Ah, by the look in your eyes, I see it's coming back to you. Go through the court record again and have a thorough look at everything. You may just find a clue.
Yes, I'll do it straight away.
Okay, so what do we have to gain from this? I swear we, did some examining last video, but perhaps we'll do it again. Turn this over and over in my hands, just to get us a refresher. Giselle Brett. Time of death, 2 p.m. Cause of death, single deep stab wound from behind, piercing a lung, resulting in a fatal hemorrhage. Death would have occurred within minutes. Extreme meiosis, pupil constriction, observed in victim with both eyes. That's a fact that's going to come up later. I have a good feeling about that. Look at this photograph. Every time I do it, makes me laugh. Stabby, stabby. That poor swan. We can only look at... Oh, we can... Oh, hello. We couldn't examine this last time. We could not examine this until... I swear, it was just a static picture. Marcus England Return tells all. This is the interview with you and Soseki-san, is it, father? It looks as though it was quite an exchange. So we couldn't actually examine this further until this testimony, I'm assuming. Yes, he became a little over-animated when he was talking about his time in England. The photographer managed to capture the moment his hand karate chopped me on the neck. I do hope you weren't hurt. Alright, what else can we do? Gamer keys. There's not much else to see on the front page, but we've had plenty to go on with back pages. It's the newspaper from Soseki-san. There seems to be an important article on the back page as well. Exclusive. Deadly poison stolen from Yume Medical Research Laboratory. From Yume's Medical Research? Father, isn't that your lab? What the? Let me see that. The poison's been stolen. It's this morning's paper that Soseki-san gave us. Are you saying you didn't know? As embarrassing as it is for the head of the laboratory, I didn't. I've not heard any such thing. Where on earth could the reporter have gleaned his information? Come to think of it, there was no article mentioning this story in our paper this morning, was there? It's a highly toxic poison we've been working on in the strictest confidence. I'd put Ray in charge of the project. Ray? She was managing it? If what's written here is true, it means that she tried to hide the theft from me. And moreover, the details were leaked somehow. I don't believe it. You need to read this article very carefully. Oh boy! Well, this took a turn. I did not see that coming. Following a lecture at Yume by Soseki Natsume on 11th August, it's come to light that a very disturbing incident took place. A deadly poison being secretly developed in the university's forensic science laboratory was stolen. Even the smallest amount entering the body, either via the mouth or via a wound from a poison-laced blade, would prove fatal in minutes. Current methods cannot detect the newly developed chemical. The university would have to be consulted. Onset of symptoms occurs in minutes, starting with impaired breathing and ending with acute contraction of the pupils prior to death. Such symptoms would be suggestive of this toxin. It's apparently an entirely new synthesis of alkaloids and rumored to have been commissioned by the military. That's fucked up. Contraction of the pupils. Well, well. Pupil constriction. Sorry. Contraction of pupils. Yeah. Same word. Same meaning. Possibly. Yeah, I feel like constrict and contract, contraction and constrict are Yeah, what am I thinking? Of course contraction and constriction are the same. And we can examine this. If we take off the pen's lid. Hello? What have we to gain from this? Now let's unscrew the barrel, shall we? Okay. What are we looking at? This be the little reservoir that holds the ink. Yes, you fill it by drawing ink from the bottle, up through the nib. Is something wrong, Father? Just that there doesn't actually appear to be any ink in there, that's all. Oh, yes, you're right. It's pretty much empty. Well, that could be on the verge of running out, I suppose. A very small amount of liquid still inside. Interesting. What does that mean for us? I have no clue. Poison stolen. I don't know what to do here. I'll be perfectly honest, I'm not entirely sure how to proceed. Maybe we present the... This is the point that that pressing him hinted at needing evidence. Maybe we present this here.
Objection!
No, there is one possibility. One very good reason why the defendant might have decided to withdraw the knife from the victim's wound. What? Ha! The yokel not only has a poor grasp of the law, but is also a poor loser. Tell us then, what possibility do you think you've identified? It's here, in this newspaper article. An article about a deadly poison having been stolen from a laboratory at the Imperial Yume University.
Objection!
Victim perished from a stab wound. Poison has no relevance in this case. But... Prosecutor Ouchie, you will let the defense speak. But a newspaper article! The court cannot rely on the kind of hearsay those wretched publications carry. But the press... Answer for the defense. I'm going to need some tangible basis for your claim. What I'm trying to say about Ouchie is, you will indicate to the court precisely what part of the newspaper article mentioned affirms your assertion. He's a certain scope of boomer that seems to have been universal throughout the ages. Your Excellency! Yes, of course. Thank you. I would never have done something to further endanger Miss Brett's life without just cause. The reason why the defendant pulled the knife from the victim's body is explained in the article where it says... Deadly in tiny quantities. Oh, there's the page labels. Deadly in tiny quantities. The article reveals the following property about the poison in question. When the toxin enters the body on a knife laced with the poison, it's rapidly absorbed and causes death in minutes. Are you suggesting if the knife used to attack Miss Brett was laced with this very poison, it would explain why the defendant, Mbani-san, would have withdrawn the blade as soon as possible? Yes, the truth is... It was an attempt to stop the poison from entering the victim's body. What?
Objection!
This is complete and utter nonsense!
You can probably criticize this trial turn for literally coming out of nowhere. Not at all. The defendant withdrew the knife blade from the victim's body not to accelerate the woman's demise, but to save her life. And the prosecution cannot deny the possibility.
Have you not read the post-mortem report?
The cause of the death was hemorrhage.
The word poison appears nowhere in the document.
Well, that's because by acting quickly to remove the blade, the defendant prevented the poison from taking hold.
Objection!
Oh, please, this is clearly desperation. The weasel's last breaking of wind.
The weasel's last breaking of wind. That's a hell of a burn, ouchie.
Poison has nothing whatsoever to do with this case, as I believe the defense is well aware. We have no proof that the information in this wretched newspaper article is at all reliable in any way.
In that situation, what the student should have done is wait for medical assistance to arrive. But instead, you claim she suspected poisoning and took the potentially lethal decision to remove the blade. She must have had a strong reason for her suspicions then, or the argument makes no sense.
Exactly. Well put, Inspector. What grounds did she do it, yokel?
Why did Ray suspect the stolen poison was involved? If you want grounds, I'll give you grounds.
What? You can't possibly.
From your expression, Counsel, it would appear those are not empty words. But naturally, as you stand in this courtroom as a lawyer, you must be well aware that words alone, empty or not, are of no value in our modern justice system. Court demands evidence. Yes, Your Excellency, I'm well aware of that. I've seen it many times. In my place at his side on the Old Bailey. In that case, Counsel, he will present the proof to the court now. What evidence demonstrates a clear link between this case and the poison in the newspaper article? It's in the post-mortem report, right? Is this where you point out the post-mortem report?
Take that!
I would ask the court to refer to the notes section of the post-mortem report, which reads, extreme meiosis, pupil constriction, was observed in the victim. Ah. Clearly, being a yokel with no knowledge of forensic science, I have no idea, so please, do tell me. Presumably, the fact that this condition of the victim was noted in the post-mortem report means that it's an unusual symptom of death?
Well,
under normal circumstances, the pupils dilate when someone dies. If there was extreme constriction instead, that's most certainly unusual, yes.
What are you doing, you yokel detective?
The newspaper article, there's the following information about the stolen poison. Onset of symptoms occurs in minutes, ending with acute contraction of the pupils prior to death.
What?
The defendant, upon seeing the victim stabbed in the back, happened to notice that the pupils of Miss Brett's eyes had constricted severely. Yes, as a medical research assistant, she would have suspected poison immediately, without doubt. Prosecutor Ouchie, I think you'll agree. This is very compelling evidence.
You yokel student and yokel professor! I
believe the defense has expertly demonstrated a credible reason for the defendant's actions.
Oh.
Yes, Shin Mikitoba. Yes, Your Excellency. I believe you are best placed here to confirm or to deny the veracity of the defense counsel's argument. You'll tell the court the truth about the details reported in the newspaper, please. Uh-oh. It pains me to have to admit it. But I'm afraid I don't know. You don't know? The toxin was kept under lock and key in my laboratory, certainly, but I was unaware of any theft. Do you mean to tell the court that the reports of this theft are unfounded? No, Your Excellency. Without returning to the laboratory to investigate myself, I couldn't say. Ha! Listen to the bumbling academic. Unaware of the theft of secret state research from his own workplace until he reads of it in the newspaper. I take full responsibility for the incompetence of my supervision. Father! A pitiful situation for a university professor. You should have more control over your students, rather than allowing them off on killing sprees. That's totally unfounded. Uh-oh. Hi, Ray. None of this is Professor Mikitoba's fault. It's all my fault. Ray! Oh boy. Nambami-san, you stand accused here. Outbursts like this will not be tolerated. But it was me. I was the one who noticed that the poison we were developing had been stolen that day. What? So you knew. I'd been placed in charge of overseeing the project. It was the day that the professor and Soseki-san were interviewed together for the newspaper. That's when I noticed that some of the poison was missing. Just a tiny amount it was. Why didn't you let me know immediately? I was scared. The whole project was supposed to be confidential, but some of the toxin had somehow been taken. So, I decided I'd try to get it back before anyone else found out. Because I had a very good idea who the thief was. The thief? You don't mean... Yes, of course. It was that dainty English woman. Miss Giselle Brett. That's why I decided to join the little group of people going to the seaside. Inside the beach hut, I confronted Miss Brett. But she just sat on a stool at the back of the hut, smiling sweetly at me as if she knew she was untouchable. No, it was you who stole the poison. Well now, whatever do you mean? And then, she suddenly got to her feet, before falling to her knees in front of me, and then collapsing on the floor. That's when I saw the knife in her back. I couldn't understand what had just happened. And then, a moment later, I was seized with fear. Pupils of her eyes they'd shrunk to tiny pinpoints. I don't believe it. In other words, you realize that the victim was suffering the effects of the stolen poison. My mind started racing. I hadn't seen anything past Miss Brett's lips whilst I'd been with her. Which left only one possible way for the poison to have entered her body. On the blade of the knife in her back. And that train of thought was what spurred you to withdraw the blade. Yes. If the amount that had entered her bloodstream was small enough, she might still have a chance. That's what I hoped. Really, I'm so sorry for staying silent all this time. Your attempt to hide the truth of what happened is not something that can be overlooked. However, I have duly noted the courage with which you confessed in the end. Thank you, Your Excellency. It's barely perceptible, but I do think the balance has shifted a little here. This courtroom now.
Objection!
Your Excellency, do not be deceived. The victim just collapsed before your eyes, you say. Well, Mbami-san, if that is the case, perhaps you could explain how Miss Brett came to be stabbed. Well, you have no answer because the simple truth is that you stabbed the victim motivated by revenge.
Objection!
But you have no conclusive evidence to prove that assertion, do you? Oh, I have evidence. It's very much conclusive. Alright. What's the prosecution counsel up to? It was brief, but he hesitated for a moment there. Almost sure of it.
You will produce the aforementioned evidence at once, Prosecutor Ouchi. What have you got for us? And why are you hesitating?
Perhaps some praise is due, young yokel student. What? I'd imagine there would be no need for me to submit this evidence. But you brought this on yourself. What the? Could a more damning shot exist? Cruelty in the air on that beach is almost palpable. Well, this evidence, more than any other, reveals the true extent of the accused's murderous nature. For it shows the precise moment that Bimbani-san plunged her dagger into the victim's back.
Oh, it's weak, Ouchi, and you know it.
No, that's not true. No! I don't believe it. Ah!
Maybe just because it's been a while since we've been in this courtroom, but that explosive shock knockback animation in this courtroom, it's more clear that they're just like recoiling in shock, slamming into the side of the gallery, and then collapsing onto the bench. Order! Yes. Counsel for the defense, was it you who was responsible for that shrill scream that just pierced my courtroom?
Perhaps his voice has yet to break. These yokels are slow of mind and slow to mature.
They peel themselves off the desk in a similar manner.
I'll show you who's slow to mature.
Careful now. Susato was starting to show her face here.
It is often said that a picture is worth 1,000 words, and here we have ample proof.
The court will accept this extremely cogent photographic print as evidence. The incriminating photograph has been entered into the court record. Oh, goody.
I can't believe he's had a photograph like that up his sleeve this entire time.
Let's take a look at this. This is a professional print. This is how she collapsed. Look at the angle on this photograph. Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself here, but the angle of this photograph is something we're going to use. Because someone moved this pretty easily to get to that photograph. And while I'm at it, I may as well point out where I noticed the crack in this before. And that's on this photograph. That same little crease is in it too. Interesting.
It's such a stark image, I'm genuinely lost for words. Wait a minute, I don't understand. How did you... I mean, who took that photograph?
Ray?
Objection!
Ray. That's of no importance here. Stop trying to divert attention. Oh.
Objection!
That's an absurd thing to say. It's crucially important. Whoever took this photographic print was a witness to Miss Brett's death. The court must be allowed to hear this person's testimony.
I will uphold the defense's demand. The prosecution will reveal the identity of this person responsible for taking this photograph at once.
Well, I'm afraid I can't do that.
Pardon?
You see, this print arrived at the Imperial Police Bureau headquarters by express post yesterday, but there was nothing to indicate the sender's name or address. The provenance of the print is unknown. Goodness. We don't understand then, Counsel. And in full knowledge of the fact that this photograph has the murkiest of origins. You nevertheless believe it fit for submission as evidence to the Supreme Court? When you first produced that print before, I noticed that you hesitated for a brief moment. Because you knew that it wasn't completely reliable evidence, didn't you? Silence, you yokel student and blabbering professor! Bang. What matters is the blatant truth that this print so eloquently expresses. But the defendant has already admitted to pulling the blade from the wound. Clearly this isn't the moment that the knife was plunged into the victim's back, but... the moment it was withdrawn? Don't waste the course of time with your ramblings. I mean, plus, ouchie, there's already a big blood stain on her back, so... You're a fool, ouchie, indeed. Without knowledge of who produced this print, we have no means of verifying the claim. And the scene it captures is without doubt the most compelling evidence presented to the court. If the defense is unable to shed any further light on the matter, I believe the conclusion is clear. Oh no! Susato, this is the time for you to fight. I mean, let's look at this here. Yeah, there's already a bloodstain on her back. And she was only stabbed once, so... Yes, this is the moment... This is the moment she was stabbed. Yes, that's where that bloodstain come from. Oh, no. Fake news. Bloodstain, fake news. That's... Illuminati made that up. I don't know. It's false. I'm right. You're wrong. And anyways, moving on. My point is that Ouchie's a fool. And in the modern day and age, the Paynes would be frequenting Fox News. If what you've established so far is true, then there can be no doubt. This photograph shows the moment that Ray withdrew the blade from the victim. Yes, we just need to prove that somehow. You'll have plenty of time to rue on your defeat on the slow train back to the provinces. And through the day you came up against Takatsuchi Ouchi in a court of law. I can't determine who took this photograph, and the trial is going to come to an end. Must be a clue somewhere. Must be some way of working out who took it. Well, Counsel. Your Excellency, the running question is who took that photograph, and the truth is... I have the answer. Slap. We can prove it at least. This isn't about whether I can or can't come up with the answer now. I simply have to. The identity of the person who took this dramatic photographic print is, I assure you, something the defense can and will reveal. What? No, you can't possibly. But as you so boldly claim that you can, please, do enlighten us. Unfortunately, I'm unable to present a name. How utterly underwhelming. Did you really believe you could? However, I am able to present evidence. Defense is a piece of evidence that reveals important details about the photographer's identity. What? Now the question is which we present first. Very well then, Counsel, present your proof to the court. Oh, okay. We'll go with this then. Which piece of evidence do you claim reveals something about the identity of this mystery photographer?
Take that!
Present this picture. What is that? A newspaper again? Raucous England returnees tell all. It's not the headline that's relevant here, Your Excellency. It's the photograph. Look at this photograph. If you look at it closely, you'll notice that there are some white lines on the right-hand side. Ah, yes indeed. They'd already caught my eye as it happens. Ha! What of it? A shadow of some kind, presumably, on the branches of a tree or the like. Ah yes, there are no trees growing inside my laboratory at the university, I can assure you. Now, if you look closely at this photograph, look at this photograph. Good gracious. Yes, exactly the same pattern of lines is present on this photograph too.
Objection!
Well, that tells us nothing. Ah, yes, it's a shadow of some kind, definitely, from the branches of a tree. There wouldn't be any trees growing inside a hut at the beach, Council. What's quite remarkable about it is that the two patterns are absolutely identical. Such an extraordinary similarity have transpired. A curious matching pattern that appears on both photographic prints is a result of a camera defect. Obviously, it must be due to a problem with the camera used to take the photographs. Well, with the photographic device. Yes, we can confidently say that the camera's lens must be scratched. That the scratched lens causes unwanted lines to appear on every print taken with the device. In short, two photographs under consideration here were taken with the same camera. But there must be hundreds of such camera devices here in the capital. It would be utterly impossible to identify the owner of this particular one.
Objection!
I think you're forgetting, Prosecutor Ouchie, that one of the photographs featured in a newspaper article. A newspaper? Yeah. That's right. The author of that article is the mystery witness to this crime. Wow! What? Soseki? I see why you were called such a raucous England returnee. I feel like I didn't give that line the proper... Mainemo! There we go. What are you yelling about? You've already testified. It's the Mainemo, I tell you. Mainemo! Meanie? No! Memo. Thank you, Soseki. Soseki-san, what was that? Did you say many memo? Ever since I returned to Japan, a reporter from the Shoyu News has been hounding me, following my every move. A reporter by the name of Wrighton Many Memo. Yes, hounding me from dawn till dusk. That pun name. Holy shit. That is a pun name. Wrighton Many Memo. Ah, now that he mentions it. Like, secretly, spy, snapshots, scribble stories, and discover my privacy. Could that same reporter be? A camera to the left of him, a notebook to the right. Here I am, stuck in the middle with you. Oh, you went there. I love you, Soseki. There I am, stuck in the middle with Wrighton Many Memo. That pun name, holy shit. That has done psychic damage to me in all the best ways. So you're saying that this picture was taken by Many Memo? Yes. My lord, your excellency, Esquire. Officer, find this newspaper reporter at once and bring him to my courtroom. We will adjourn for a short recess in the meantime. Oh, yes, your excellency. As you say, your excellency. And one more thing. I want this knife, the murder weapon, examined for traces of poison. We'll solicit the assistance of the Imperial University's medical department for the task. Understood. Meh. Many Memo.
many more. It's going to make this a shorter episode, but this seems like a very good time to adjourn. So until next time, we be writing many memo. Many memo!